Texas, 1878, 6 years ago. The room smelled of gunpowder and copper. Darkness pressed against the single window where moonlight struggled to enter, casting long shadows across the wooden floor. In the corner, a kerosene lamp flickered, its weak flame dancing to rhythms only it could hear. Maeve Ashford knelt on that floor, her hands red, her dress soaked through. She was 23 years old. She had killed 7 men in her career as a United States Marshal. She had tracked fugitives across 3 territories. She had stared down outlaws who made grown men weep, but she had never held someone she loved while they died. Jonah Ashford lay in her arms, blood spreading from the wound in his chest. His breathing came in wet, shallow gasps. His eyes, once sharp and certain, now struggled to focus on her face. "May," he whispered. His voice was barely there. "Don't talk," she said. Her own voice surprised her, steady, calm, as if this were just another day, as if her world were not ending. "Help is coming." They both knew it was a lie. Jonah's hand found hers. His grip was weak, trembling. "You were never supposed to—" He coughed, blood on his lips. "Get this deep." "I had to," Maeve said. "The mission, the evidence. I had to." "No." Even dying Jonah Ashford could make that single word carry weight. "You had to stay yourself. Remember who you are." The lamp flickered. Shadows moved across his face. "I'm sorry," Maeve whispered. For the first time in 6 years of law enforcement, tears came to her eyes. "Jonah, I'm so sorry." His hand squeezed hers one last time, then went still. Maeve did not scream, did not sob. She simply sat there in the darkness, holding her brother, feeling the warmth leave his body. Somewhere in the distance, voices shouted, boots thundered on wooden stairs. But in that room, there was only silence. The silence that would follow her for 6 years. The silence that would define everything that came after. Liberty Crossing, Dakota Territory, September 1884. Present day. Maeve Caldwell stood before the mirror in her bedroom, pinning her hair into a simple bun. The morning sun came through lace curtains, painting everything in soft gold. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, each motion automatic, learned over years of repeating the same ritual. She wore a plain cotton dress, blue with tiny white flowers. Practical, modest. The kind a rancher's wife might wear on any ordinary Wednesday. In the mirror, she studied her own face. 29 years old now, skin weathered slightly by prairie sun, eyes the color of winter frost. Her neighbors in Liberty Crossing called her beautiful, in that understated way frontier women could be. Quiet beauty, they said, the kind that grew on you. They did not see what she saw when she looked at herself. They did not see the void behind those eyes, the empty space where something essential had been carved out and never replaced. Behind her, the bed was already made, corners sharp enough to pass military inspection. On the nightstand sat a simple brass lamp, a worn Bible she never read, and a tintype photograph in a wooden frame. The photograph showed Maeve and Cole on their wedding day 6 years ago. They looked happy, young, full of promise. Maeve picked up the frame, studied it for a moment, then set it back down. Exactly where it had been. Precisely the same angle. Downstairs, she could hear Cole moving about the kitchen, the familiar sounds of morning, coffee brewing, firewood crackling in the stove, the man she had married starting another day on the ranch they had built together, the ranch that was supposed to be her sanctuary, her hiding place, her grave for the person she used to be. Maeve took one last look in the mirror, smoothed her dress, and went downstairs to play the role she had been playing for 6 years. The kitchen was warm, filled with the rich smell of fresh coffee. Cole Caldwell stood at the stove scrambling eggs in a cast-iron skillet. He was 35, tall and lean, with the kind of quiet strength that came from years of physical labor. His hands, scarred and calloused, moved with surprising gentleness as he worked. He looked up when she entered, and his face lit up in the way it always did, as if seeing her was the best part of his morning, as if she were a gift he never expected to receive. "Morning," he said softly. "Morning." She poured herself coffee from the pot, added a splash of cream, stirred it exactly 3 times. Routine, predictable, safe. Cole served the eggs onto 2 plates, added bacon and toast. They sat at the small wooden table by the window. Outside, the Dakota prairie stretched endlessly, grass moving in waves under a cloudless sky. Their land, their quiet life. They ate in comfortable silence, or what Cole believed was comfortable. He had learned over 6 years that his wife did not need conversation with every meal, that she seemed content with quiet. He did not know that for Maeve, every moment of silence was filled with noise, memories, ghosts, the sound of her brother's last breath. "I need to ride into town today," Cole said, breaking the quiet. "Pick up supplies. That new seed we ordered should be in." "All right. You want to come? Might be nice. Could stop by the cafe, get some of that pie you like." Maeve looked at him then, really looked, saw the hope in his eyes, the way he offered these small invitations, trying to coax her into the world, into connection, into something more than the careful distance she maintained. "I have work here," she said gently. "The garden needs tending." Disappointment flickered across his face, quickly hidden. "Of course. I'll be back before supper." He stood, carried his plate to the wash basin. Maeve remained at the table, coffee cup cradled in both hands, staring out at the prairie. Cole paused at the door. "Maeve, yes? Are you happy?" The question hung in the air between them. Heavy, dangerous. She turned to look at him, saw the vulnerability in his face. This good man who had given her 6 years of patience, of kindness, of love, she could never quite return in the way he deserved. "I'm grateful," she said finally. It was not an answer. They both knew it. Cole nodded slowly, put on his hat, and walked out to saddle his horse. Maeve sat alone in the kitchen, listening to the sounds of him leaving. Hoofbeats fading into distance. Then silence again. Always silence. That evening, they sat together on the front porch as the sun set over the prairie. This was their ritual. Every night, weather permitting, they would sit in the 2 rocking chairs Cole had built and watch the day end. Cole would sometimes talk about the ranch, about plans for next season, about nothing important. Maeve would listen, or appear to listen, her eyes on the horizon. Tonight he reached over and took her hand. She let him, but everything in her tensed, old instincts screaming. Vulnerability equals danger. Connection equals risk. Let someone in, and they become a target, a weakness, a wound waiting to happen. "Where do you go, Maeve?" Cole asked quietly. She did not answer. "I'm sitting right here next to you," he continued, "holding your hand. And you're somewhere else. You're always somewhere else." The sun was nearly gone now, the sky bleeding orange and purple. Shadows stretched long across the land. "Where do you go?" he asked again. Maeve pulled her hand away, gently, but firmly. "I'm right here," she said. "No, you're not." She stood, walked to the porch railing, gripped it with both hands. Behind her, she could feel Cole's hurt, his confusion, his love trying desperately to reach her through walls she had spent 6 years building. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what? For not being what you need." Cole rose, came to stand beside her. He did not touch her, just stood there close enough that she could feel his warmth, his presence, his stubborn refusal to give up on her. "I don't need you to be anything," he said. "I just need you to let me in." The last sliver of sun disappeared. Darkness came to the prairie. Maeve did not answer, could not answer, because letting someone in meant showing them what she really was, what she had done, the choices she had made, the blood on her hands that no amount of scrubbing could ever wash clean. They stood there together in the growing dark, side by side, but oceans apart, until finally Cole sighed and went inside. Maeve remained on the porch, staring out at nothing, feeling the weight of all the things she could never say, pressing down on her chest like stones. The stranger rode into Liberty Crossing on a Thursday afternoon. Maeve was in the general store ordering flour and sugar when she heard the whispers start. "Mrs. Grayson," the shopkeeper's wife, peered through the window, her voice dropping to that particular tone women use when they sense something unusual. "Well now, that's a fine horse. And look at that saddle. That's not rancher tack." Maeve's hand stilled on the list she was writing. "Fancy dress, too," Mrs. Grayson continued. "City clothes. Wonder what brings that sort to Liberty Crossing." Every muscle in Maeve's body had gone tense, old training kicking in. Assess, evaluate, prepare. She walked to the window, casual, unhurried, looked out. The man sat astride a beautiful black gelding surveying the town with the air of someone cataloging exits and threats. He wore a tailored vest over a white shirt, dark trousers, polished boots. A city man, yes. But the way he sat, the horse, the way his eyes moved, spoke of something else. Someone trained. Someone dangerous. Someone she knew. Elias Merrick. Maeve turned away from the window, her face carefully neutral. Mrs. Grayson, I'll come back for the order tomorrow. But dear, I have everything ready. Tomorrow. She walked out through the back door, moving quickly, but not running. Never run. Running draws attention. She cut through the alley behind the blacksmith, took the long way back to where she had tied her horse. But she was not fast enough. Hello, Maeve. The voice came from behind her. Smooth. Familiar. Carrying 6 years of memory in 3 words. She stopped. Did not turn around immediately. Took a breath. Composed herself. Then turned. Elias Merrick looked older, lines around his eyes that had not been there before. Gray touching his temples, but the same sharp intelligence in his face, the same dangerous competence. You have me confused with someone else, Maeve said evenly. Do I? He smiled, not pleasantly. Because the woman I'm looking for was named Maeve Ashford, best undercover operative the Marshal Service ever had. Disappeared 6 years ago after her brother died. Some said she went mad. Some said she died too. But I always wondered. I don't know what you're talking about. No. He took a step closer. Then explain how a simple rancher's wife moves like someone trained in close quarters combat. How she positions herself with a clear line to every exit. How she's already calculated 3 ways to kill me where we stand. Maeve said nothing. It's good to see you, Elias said quietly. Even if you're pretending to be dead, what do you want? To talk. Somewhere private. We have nothing to discuss. We have everything to discuss, because they're coming, Maeve, and you need to be ready. The abandoned church sat at the edge of town, its white paint long since peeled away by prairie wind, its bell tower empty and silent. No one came here anymore. The new church had been built 5 years ago, closer to the center of Liberty Crossing. This old building was just a shell now, a skeleton of faith left to the elements. Maeve entered through the side door, hand resting on the hidden pocket in her skirt where she kept a small derringer. Elias was already inside, standing near what had once been the pulpit. You always did have a taste for the dramatic, she said. Says the woman who faked her own disappearance and hid on a ranch for 6 years. She did not deny it. There was no point. Why are you here, Elias? He turned to face her fully. In the dim light filtering through broken windows, she could see the fear in his eyes. Real fear. Elias Merrick, who had once walked into a den of killers without flinching, was afraid. The syndicate, he said. They've found me. Maeve felt something cold settle in her stomach. The syndicate, the organization they had spent 2 years infiltrating. The network that stretched from Texas to Washington, trading in weapons information and death. The monster they had both barely escaped. That's not my problem anymore. It is if they know about you. They don't. I made sure of that. Did you? Elias pulled a folded paper from his vest, handed it to her. Maeve opened it. It was a wanted notice, not official, private, printed on expensive paper, and it bore a photograph of her from 6 years ago along with a name, Maeve Ashford, and beneath that $20,000, alive only. Her hand did not shake, but it wanted to. They've been looking for 6 years, Elias said. Someone finally remembered Liberty Crossing, remembered a woman who arrived around the same time you vanished. They're putting pieces together, Maeve. Why tell me? Why not just collect the $20,000 yourself? The question hung between them, sharp as a knife. Elias looked away. Because we were partners once. Because what we did, what we tried to do, meant something. And because, he paused, because I need your help. No. Maeve, please. I said no, that life is dead. I'm not that person anymore. Aren't you? He gestured around the empty church. You think hiding on a ranch playing housewife makes you someone else? I've been watching you since I arrived. The way you move, the way you assess threats, the way you positioned yourself at every moment to have tactical advantage. He shook his head. You're still her. You're still Iron Maeve. You just pretend otherwise. The nickname landed like a blow. Iron Maeve, what they had called her during the investigation. The operative who never broke, never bent, never showed emotion. Made of iron, they said. Cold and hard and unbreakable. They had not known what it cost to be that person, what pieces of herself she had to cut away to become someone who could do what needed to be done. "I'm not helping you," Maeve said quietly. "Whatever trouble you're in, whatever you did to bring them down on you, that's yours to handle." She turned to leave. "They have information," Elias said to her back, "about Jonah." Maeve stopped. "About how he really died. About who was responsible." She turned slowly. "I know who was responsible. I was there." "Were you?" "Because the official report says he was killed during a raid on a syndicate arms cache, shot by unknown assailants." "But that's not the whole truth, is it? Say what you came to say, Elias." He took a breath. "Jonah didn't just stumble into that warehouse. He was sent there by someone who knew it was a trap, someone inside the Marshal Service, someone who wanted him dead because he was getting too close to their identity." The church seemed to tilt around her. "You're lying." "I wish I was. I've spent 6 years digging, following threads, and I've found proof. Documentary evidence, names, dates. A conspiracy that goes all the way to the top." He met her eyes. "Jonah was murdered, Maeve, and the person who ordered it is still in power, still protected, still destroying anyone who gets close to the truth." Maeve's hands had curled into fists. "Who, help me stay alive long enough to get the evidence somewhere safe, and I'll tell you everything." She wanted to refuse, wanted to walk out of this church and back to her quiet life, her safe existence, her carefully constructed walls. But Jonah's face appeared in her mind. His last words. "You were never supposed to get this deep." "How long do we have?" she asked quietly. "Days, maybe less. They're already moving people into position. And you came here, led them right to me. I had nowhere else to go." Maeve closed her eyes, felt the weight of the past 6 years pressing down, felt the walls she had built beginning to crack. "One condition," she said, opening her eyes. "My husband knows nothing. This doesn't touch him. Ever." "Agreed." She nodded once. "Then we need to move fast. If they're already watching, we don't have much time." As she walked out of the church, Maeve Ashford realized something terrifying. For 6 years she had been running from who she was, and in one conversation, Elias Merrick had dragged her right back. The iron was still there. She could feel it, cold and hard and waiting. And she was afraid of what she might become when she let it surface again. Cole returned from town just before sunset. Maeve was in the barn brushing down her horse with mechanical precision. She looked up when he entered, tried to arrange her face into something approaching normal. "Good day," she asked. "Fine. Got the seed. Stopped for pie like I said." He paused. "You weren't at the store when I went by, Mrs. Grayson said you left without your order. I forgot something at home. I'll go back tomorrow." Cole studied her face. 6 years of marriage had taught him to read her silences, her small tells. And something was wrong. He could see it in the tension in her shoulders, the way her hands gripped the brush too tightly. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine." "Maeve." She set down the brush, turned to face him. "I said I'm fine, Cole." He took a step closer. "Mrs. Grayson mentioned a stranger. Man in city clothes asking questions about folks in town. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" Her heart was pounding, but her face remained calm. "Why would I? I don't know. You tell me." They stood there in the growing darkness of the barn, the space between them charged with unspoken things, unasked questions, unanswered truths. Finally, Cole sighed. "I love you. You know that, right? Whatever happened before we met, whatever you're running from, I love you." "I know." "Then trust me, please. If something's wrong, if you're in some kind of trouble, let me help." Maeve wanted to. God, how she wanted to tell him everything, to let him carry some of this weight, to not be alone anymore. But the words would not come, because telling him meant revealing who she really was, what she had done, the darkness she carried inside her. And she could not bear to see the way he would look at her when he knew the truth. "There's nothing wrong," she lied. "Just a long day." Cole nodded slowly. He did not believe her. She could see that. But he loved her enough not to push. Not yet. "I'll be up at the house," he said quietly. when you're ready." After he left, Maeve stood alone in the barn, surrounded by shadows and the warm smell of hay and horses. She pressed her forehead against the rough wood of the stall, closed her eyes, and tried to remember how to breathe. But that night, after Cole had gone to bed, Maeve could not sleep. She lay beside him, listening to his breathing, feeling the weight of deception pressing down like a physical thing. Finally, carefully, she slipped from the bed. The house was dark, silent. She moved through it like a ghost, knowing every creaking floorboard, every patch of moonlight. Down the stairs, through the kitchen, into the small room Cole used as an office. She knelt beside his desk, ran her fingers along the underside of the bottom drawer until she found the hidden catch. Pressed it. The false bottom released. Inside was a leather satchel she had not touched in 6 years. Maeve pulled it out, opened it. The contents spilled across the floor in the moonlight. A United States Marshal badge. Tarnished now, but still solid. Still real. A custom Colt revolver modified for her hand, engraved with her initials. M.A.A. Maeve Ashford, before she became Caldwell. And a photograph, creased and faded. 3 people standing in front of a courthouse. Jonah in the center, tall and proud in his marshal's uniform. Maeve on his right, younger, harder, with fire in her eyes. And on his left, Elias Merrick, grinning, like they had just conquered the world. She picked up the photograph, traced Jonah's face with one finger. "I'm sorry," she whispered to his image. "I'm so sorry." "Maeve," she spun hand instinctively, going for the gun that was not at her hip. Cole stood in the doorway, lamp in hand. His eyes moved from her face to the items scattered on the floor. The badge, the gun, the photograph, the silence stretched. Heavy. Final. "Cole," she began, but he held up a hand, set down the lamp, knelt beside her, picked up the badge, turned it over in his hands. "How long were you going to keep lying to me, Maeve?" His voice was not angry. Somehow that made it worse. "I never lied to you." "No." He held up the badge. "Then what do you call this? What do you call 6 years of pretending to be someone you're not? I am who I am now. That person," she gestured at the badge, "is dead." "Is she?" "Because that stranger in town today, he knew you. I saw the way you looked when Mrs. Grayson mentioned him. I saw you leave." He set down the badge. "And tonight I saw you sneak down here. To what? To remember. To plan. To become her again." Maeve's chest was tight, her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. "I couldn't tell you," she said quietly. "I wanted to protect you. From what? From me. From what I was. What I did." Cole picked up the photograph, studied it. "This him your brother? The one whose grave you visit every week?" "Yes." "And this?" He pointed to Elias. "The stranger?" "Yes." "What happened, Maeve? What are you running from?" She wanted to tell him, wanted to spill all of it, but the words stuck in her throat, trapped behind 6 years of silence, 6 years of carefully maintained distance. Instead, she reached for the badge, held it up to the lamplight. "I was a United States Marshal," she said. "Special investigator. I went undercover into criminal organizations. Spent months, sometimes years, becoming someone else. Getting close. Gathering evidence." She set down the badge. "I was good at it. Too good. And your brother, Marshal too. My partner sometimes. My conscience always." Her voice cracked slightly. "He died 6 years ago, during an operation, and it was my fault." Cole's hand found hers. "Tell me." So she did. Not everything, not the worst parts, but enough. She told him about the syndicate, about going undercover so deep she forgot who she was, about the choices she made, the lines she crossed, all in service of the mission. She told him about the night Jonah came for her, how he had discovered what she was becoming, how he tried to pull her out. She told him about the warehouse, the trap, the gunfire. She told him about holding Jonah while he died, his blood on her hands, his last words echoing in the darkness. What she did not tell him was the full truth, that Jonah died because of her choices, that she had gotten so lost in her cover, so deep in the darkness, that when the moment came to choose between the mission and her brother, she hesitated. That hesitation cost Jonah his life. And it was a weight she would carry forever. When she finished, Cole sat in silence for a long moment. Then he pulled her close, wrapped his arms around her. "I'm sorry," he whispered into her hair. "I'm so sorry." "For what?" "That you've been carrying this alone." Maeve closed her eyes, let herself lean into him, for just a moment allowed herself to feel the comfort of his embrace. "The stranger," Cole said quietly. "He's part of this, isn't he? He's brought it back." "Yes." "What are you going to do?" "I don't know." They sat there on the floor, surrounded by the ghosts of who Maeve used to be, until the lamp burned low and darkness crept back into the corners. Finally, Cole helped her to her feet. "Come to bed. We'll figure this out tomorrow." But as they walked upstairs, Maeve knew there was no figuring this out. The past had found her, and one way or another, she was going to have to face it. The next morning arrived with clouds heavy on the horizon. Cole was already up when Maeve woke the smell of coffee drifting up from the kitchen. She dressed, braided her hair, came downstairs to find him at the table, reading a telegram. His face was pale. "What is it?" she asked. He handed her the paper without a word. The message was brief, official, from Sheriff Clayton Hodge. "Marshal Ashford, stop, need to speak urgent. Stop strangers in town. Asking questions. Stop. Come to office soon as possible. Stop." Hodge. Maeve's hands tightened on the paper. Clayton Hodge was one of the few people in Liberty Crossing who knew her real identity. A former territorial deputy, he had helped her disappear 6 years ago, kept her secret, protected her. If he was breaking silence to contact her, it meant something bad was happening. "I have to go into town," she said. "I'm coming with you." "Cole? No arguments. If there's danger, I'm not leaving you to face it alone." She wanted to argue, to protect him by keeping him away. But she could see the determination in his face, the stubborn love that had sustained their marriage through 6 years of her silence. All right. They rode into Liberty Crossing together as the first drops of rain began to fall. The town was quiet, too quiet, like it was holding its breath. Maeve's instincts screamed warning. Something was wrong. The sheriff's office sat at the end of Main Street, a small wooden building with bars on the windows. Maeve and Cole tied their horses and went inside. Sheriff Hodge sat at his desk, hat in his hands. He was a big man, running to fat now in his retirement years, but his eyes were still sharp. When he saw Maeve, relief crossed his face. "Thank God. I was worried you wouldn't get my message in time." "In time for what?" Before he could answer, the door opened behind them. 10 men walked in. Not walked. Marched. With military precision. They spread out, blocking exits, establishing positions. Professional. Trained. And at their center stood a man Maeve recognized from intelligence files she had studied years ago. Captain Silas Vance, former Union cavalry officer. Court-martialed for black market arms dealing. Disappeared after his trial. And now, apparently working for the syndicate. He was tall, silver-haired, with cold eyes, and the bearing of someone who had led men into battle and would do so again without hesitation. "Maeve Ashford," he said. His voice was cultured, almost pleasant. "Or should I say, Mrs. Caldwell, hard to keep track of all your identities." Maeve's hand drifted toward the derringer hidden in her skirt. "I wouldn't," Vance said mildly. "My men are very good at what they do, and your husband," he glanced at Cole, "would be the first casualty of any violence." Cole stepped closer to Maeve, protective. Sheriff Hodge stood. "Now hold on here. You men have no authority in this town." Vance turned to him, pulled a revolver, and shot him. The sound was deafening in the small space. Hodge staggered back, crashed against the wall, slid down, leaving a smear of red. His eyes were wide with shock, then dimming, then still. Cole lunged forward. 2 of Vance's men grabbed him, forced him to his knees. Maeve stood frozen, the world seeming to slow. Clayton Hodge, good man, friend, protector, dead in an instant because of her. "That was unfortunate," Vance said, holstering his weapon, "but necessary. The sheriff was warned to stay out of syndicate business. He chose not to listen." He turned back to Maeve. "You, however, still have choices. What do you want? What you took from us 6 years ago, the evidence, the documents, the proof of our operations." He smiled. "We know you have it. We know you've been sitting on it, using it as insurance. But insurance only works if you're alive to use it. And right now your continued existence depends entirely on your cooperation." Maeve's mind raced. They thought she had physical evidence. Documents, files. They did not know the truth. That the evidence was in her head. Every name, every date, every transaction memorized during 2 years of undercover work. A perfect record of the syndicate's operations locked away in her memory where no one could steal it. "I don't have what you're looking for," she said. "That's disappointing." Vance nodded to his men. They forced Cole's head down, pressed a gun to the base of his skull. "No." Maeve stepped forward. "Wait, just wait." "Then you do have it." She looked at Cole, saw the fear in his eyes, not for himself, for her. "I have it," she lied. "But not here, not in town. It's hidden, at the ranch." Vance considered this. "Then we'll go to the ranch, all of us, and you'll produce what we want, or your husband dies, slowly, while you watch." He gestured to his men. "Mount up." As they were herded outside into the rain, Maeve caught Cole's eye, tried to communicate everything she could not say. "I'm sorry, I love you. Forgive me." Cole gave her the smallest nod, then looked away toward something behind her. Maeve glanced back. Standing in the doorway of the abandoned church across the street was Elias Merrick. He met her eyes touch 2 fingers to his hat brim. A signal, one she recognized from their time as partners. "I'm here, I'm watching. I'll follow." It was not much, but it was something. They rode out of Liberty Crossing in formation, Vance's men surrounding Maeve and Cole like a prison escort. The rain fell harder now, turning the prairie into a gray blur, and in Maeve's mind a familiar coldness was beginning to spread, the iron coming back, the part of her she had tried to bury, tried to kill, tried to escape. She was going to need it now. Because somewhere between here and the ranch, she was going to have to find a way to save Cole, stop Vance, and protect secrets that could bring down an empire. 6 years of running were over. Iron Maeve was coming back, and this time she would not hesitate. They reached the ranch as evening fell. The house looked small and vulnerable against the vast prairie lamplight glowing warm in the windows. Home. The life she had built, the peace she had found, all of it about to be destroyed. Vance's men dismounted, established a perimeter. Professional, efficient. They had done this before. "Inside," Vance ordered. "Show us." Maeve and Cole walked into their own home at gunpoint. It felt surreal. Violation made physical. These men tracking mud across floors she had swept, touching things that were hers, Cole's theirs. "Where is it?" Vance asked. Maeve walked to Cole's office, knelt beside the desk. Her hands moved to the hidden compartment. But instead of opening it, she triggered a different catch. One Cole did not know existed. A larger panel slid open in the floor. Inside was a leather-bound journal, thick, heavy, filled with pages of handwritten notes, documents, sketches, maps. Vance picked it up, flipped through it. His eyes widened. "My God," he breathed. "This is everything. Names, routes, transactions, connections." He looked at Maeve with something approaching respect. "You documented it all." "Yes." He snapped the journal shut. "The syndicate will pay handsomely for this. And for your silence." He gestured to his men. "Secure them. We leave at first light." As Vance's men tied Maeve and Cole to chairs in the kitchen, Maeve allowed herself a small internal smile. Because the journal Vance held was real. It did contain evidence, but it was incomplete, carefully curated, showing just enough to be convincing, but protecting the most dangerous secrets. The names at the very top. The mastermind behind it all. That information she kept in her head, always had, always would. The journal was bait, insurance, a trap waiting to be sprung, and now Vance had walked right into it. Night fell. Vance's men set up camp in the house, taking shifts on watch. Maeve and Cole remained tied in the kitchen guards on either side. Around midnight, when most of the house was sleeping, Cole leaned close to Maeve. "What's really in that journal?" he whispered. She looked at him, this man she had married under false pretenses, this man who somehow loved her anyway. "Enough truth to make them believe it," she whispered back, "and enough lies to destroy them when they try to use it." Cole's eyes widened slightly. Then he smiled. Just a little. You planned this. Years ago, you planned for this exact situation. I planned for every situation. That's what I do. Did you plan for me?" The question caught her off guard. In the dim lamplight, she could see the hurt in his face, the betrayal, not of her secrets, but of her lack of trust. 6 years he had waited for her to open up. 6 years of patience, and she had given him nothing. "No," she admitted. "You were the one thing I didn't plan for." "But you married me anyway." "Yes." "Why?" Maeve closed her eyes. This was not the time, not the place. "But when would there be a better one? Because you were kind," she said quietly. "Because you asked nothing of me. Because when I looked at you, I saw peace, safety, a chance to be someone else, someone better. And did you become someone better?" She opened her eyes, looked at him fully. "I don't know. I tried. God, I tried. But I'm not sure I know how to be anything except what I was. The operative, the hunter, the iron. Maybe," Cole said, "you don't have to be one or the other. Maybe you can be both." Before she could respond, footsteps on the stairs. One of the guards coming to check on them. They fell silent. The night dragged on. Maeve counted minutes, calculating. Elias would have followed them, would be watching, waiting for an opening. She just had to create one. As dawn approached, Vance came downstairs, the journal under his arm. "Time to go," he announced. "We'll take the horses, leave you tied up. Someone will find you eventually." He paused. "Or not. Either way, you're no longer our concern." He turned to leave. And that was when the first gunshot shattered the morning quiet. One of Vance's perimeter guards went down, then another. Precision shooting, from multiple positions. Vance swore dropped to the floor. "We're under attack, return fire." His men scrambled, taking defensive positions, but they could not see the attackers. The shots came from the tree line, the barn, the hills beyond. Ghosts. In the chaos, Maeve worked at her bonds. The ropes were good but not perfect, and she had 6 years of practice escaping restraints, a skill learned early in her martial days. Cole watched her eyes wide. "How are you?" "Don't ask." The ropes fell away. She grabbed a knife from the counter, cut Cole free. "Stay down," she ordered. Then she moved to the window, assessed the situation. There, in the barn loft. Muzzle flash, Elias. But he was not alone. There were at least 3 other positions firing. Who else had he brought? Vance crawled to the kitchen, saw Maeve free, raised his pistol. And Maeve moved. 6 years of dormancy fell away like shed skin. She was across the room in 2 steps, striking Vance's gun hand, following with an elbow to his jaw. He went down hard. She picked up his pistol, checked the load. Muscle memory, an automatic. Cole stared at her. "Maeve, what? Not now." She moved to the door, fired 3 careful shots, suppressing fire. Then she was outside, using the porch for cover, laying down a pattern that allowed Elias to advance from the barn. The fight was brief but brutal. Vance's men were good, but they were caught in a crossfire, pinned down, unable to coordinate. Within 10 minutes it was over. 3 of Vance's men dead. The rest surrendered. Vance himself unconscious on the kitchen floor. Elias approached the house, rifle in hand. Behind him came 3 other men, former marshals, Maeve realized. People Elias had called in. "Impressive," Elias said, looking at the scene. "You haven't lost your touch." Maeve did not answer. She was staring at her hands, at the gun she held, at the blood on her clothes. For 6 years she had not fired a weapon at another human being, had not fought, had not killed. And in one morning it had all come back, like she had never left. Cole came out onto the porch, stopped when he saw her face. "Maeve?" She looked up at him, saw herself reflected in his eyes. Not the woman he married, not the quiet rancher's wife, but someone else, someone harder, colder, someone made of iron. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Then she walked past him, into the house, into Cole's office, to the hidden compartment. She pulled out the real evidence, not the journal. That had been a decoy. The real evidence was a second compartment, deeper, more carefully hidden. Inside was a small metal box. And inside that, wrapped in oilcloth, was something Vance would have killed for, a complete list of every member of the syndicate, every corrupt official, every compromised lawman, every politician in their pocket. And at the very top, in her careful handwriting, one name that changed everything. Marshal Commander Roar Hayes, the man who had recruited her, trained her, sent her undercover, the man who had been running the syndicate the entire time. Maeve stood there staring at the name, feeling the full weight of what she knew pressing down. Elias appeared in the doorway. "What is that?" She handed him the list. His face went white as he read. "My God, Hayes, all this time. But he was your commander, your mentor." "I know." "Did Jonah know?" Maeve closed her eyes. "Yes, that's why Hayes had him killed. Jonah figured it out, came to pull me out before Hayes could use me to eliminate evidence. And when Jonah wouldn't back down..." She opened her eyes. "Hayes sent him into that warehouse, knowing it was a trap, knowing he would die." Elias sank into a chair. "So what do we do?" Maeve looked out the window. Cole was standing in the yard watching the house, waiting for her. This good man who had been sent to watch over her, to keep her contained, to make sure she never remembered who she was, sent by Hayes. "Cole?" she called. He came inside, stopped when he saw her face. "Who sent you?" she asked quietly. "What, 6 years ago, when you came to Liberty Crossing, when you happened to meet me, when you happened to fall in love with me? Who sent you?" The color drained from his face. "Answer me, Cole." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." She held up the list. Maeve stared at the list, at one name near the bottom, a name that made her blood run cold. C. Ashford, presumed dead 1869. She looked at Cole, really looked. The resemblance to Jonah she had always ignored, the way he moved, the training he tried to hide. "Who are you?" she whispered. Cole's face crumbled. "I wanted to tell you so many times, but I didn't know how." "Answer me." He took a shaking breath. "I'm someone Jonah asked to watch over you, someone who fell in love with you, someone who's been lying to you for 6 years. "That's not an answer." He looked away. "It's the only one I can give, right now. I'm sorry." Maeve stared at him, everything she thought she knew crumbling. "Get out," she said quietly. "Maeve, please." "Get out." Cole flinched. But he stood, walked to the door, paused there. "I love you," he said. "Whatever else was a lie, that's true. I love you." Then he was gone. Maeve stood alone in the office, surrounded by evidence of conspiracy betrayal and 6 years of careful deception. Elias stepped closer. "What are we going to do?" Maeve stood alone in the office, surrounded by evidence of conspiracy betrayal and 6 years of careful deception. Elias stepped closer. "What are we going to do?" Maeve looked down at the list in her hands, at Roar Hayes' name written at the top, and for the first time in 6 years, she felt something other than numbness, other than the weight of guilt and silence. She felt rage, pure, cold, focused. "We're going to burn it all down," she said quietly. "Every piece, every person, every lie." She looked up and Elias took an involuntary step back. Because the woman looking at him was not Maeve Caldwell, not the quiet rancher's wife, not the broken shell hiding from the past. This was Iron Maeve, and she was done hiding. The morning sun broke harsh across the Dakota prairie, illuminating the destruction. 3 bodies covered with canvas in the yard, blood dried on the porch boards. Vance's remaining men secured in the barn under guard by Elias's reinforcements. And inside the house, Maeve Ashford stood alone in the wreckage of her carefully constructed life. She moved through the rooms mechanically, righting overturned chairs, sweeping up broken glass. Her hands worked while her mind spun, processing the cascading revelations of the past 12 hours. Roar Hayes, her mentor, the man who had recruited her into the Marshal Service at 19, who had shaped her into the operative called Iron Maeve, who had sent her into the darkness of undercover work and promised to pull her back. That man had been running the syndicate all along, and Cole, her husband, the man she had shared a bed with for 6 years, whose gentle kindness had been the only thing keeping her tethered to humanity. He was Jonah's brother, sent to watch her. Every morning, coffee, every quiet evening, every moment of what she thought was genuine connection, built on a foundation of surveillance and lies. Maeve set down the broom, gripped the edge of the kitchen table, closed her eyes. She had survived because she learned to compartmentalize, to lock emotions away in boxes deep inside herself where they could not interfere with the mission. It was a skill that had kept her alive through 2 years of living among killers. But now, those boxes were breaking open. 6 years of suppressed feeling flooding through the cracks. Rage at Hayes's betrayal, grief over Jonah's death, and underneath it all, a howling emptiness where her marriage used to be. Maeve, Elias stood in the doorway, hat in hands. Behind him, dawn light made him a silhouette. We need to talk about next steps. She opened her eyes, straightened, pushed everything back down, locked it away. Yes, we do. They sat at the table where just yesterday she and Cole had eaten breakfast like a normal married couple. Elias spread out a map, marked with notations in his careful handwriting. Vance's men are talking, he said. Turns out they're more afraid of you than they are loyal to Hayes. Interesting what your reputation still carries. What did they tell you? Hayes is planning something big, moving tonight. There's a railroad depot 30 miles north abandoned since the line shifted east 5 years ago. Perfect for a major transfer. Transfer of what? Everything. Weapons, documents, gold. Hayes is liquidating, shutting down the American operation and moving it all to Canada. From there, overseas. If he succeeds, he disappears with 6 years of criminal infrastructure intact. New identity, new country, untouchable. Maeve studied the map. The depot location was strategic, remote, defensible, multiple escape routes. How many men does he have? At least 20, maybe more. Professional soldiers, most of them, former cavalry like Vance. Elias paused. We can't take them head on, not with our numbers. We don't need to take them head on. We need to get to Hayes before he leaves, force him to face justice. And how do you propose we do that? Maeve's finger traced a line on the map. There's only one road to the depot that can handle heavy wagons. Here, through Copper Ridge Pass. We set up there, we control access. That's an ambush position. You're talking about a shooting war. I'm talking about making him come to us, on our terms, in a place where his numbers don't matter. She looked up. Can you get word to federal authorities? Real ones, not compromised ones? I can try, but it'll take time. 24 hours minimum. Then we stall him, keep him at the depot until help arrives. Elias studied her face. You know this is probably a suicide mission. Yes. And you're doing it anyway. Yes. He nodded slowly. For Jonah. For Jonah, and for every person Hayes destroyed, every life ruined, every secret sold. Her voice hardened. And because if I don't, he wins. He walks away. And everything I sacrificed, everything I became, means nothing. The door opened. Cole stepped inside, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. He looked terrible, eyes red-rimmed, clothes rumpled. He had not slept. I'm coming with you, he said without preamble. No, Maeve replied flatly. I'm not asking permission. This isn't your fight, Cole. Go back to town. Forget you saw any of this. Forget me. He crossed the room in 3 strides, slammed his hands on the table. 6 years, Maeve. 6 years I've watched you carry weight that was breaking you. 6 years I've wanted to help to share that burden, and you've shut me out at every turn. His voice cracked. I'm not leaving you to face this alone. You don't even know me. I know you better than you think. I know you take your coffee with cream, no sugar. I know you can't sleep when it's too quiet. I know you visit Jonah's grave every Sunday, and you think I don't notice you crying. He leaned closer. I know you're terrified right now. Not of Hayes, not of dying, but of letting anyone see who you really are. Maeve stood abruptly, chair-scraping. You know nothing. You're Jonah's brother. You were sent to spy on me. At first, yes, but that changed. When did it change? After the first month of lies, the first year? Or was it just this morning when you realized your cover was blown? The words hit like physical blows. Cole flinched, but did not back down. It changed the first time I saw you cry, he said quietly. 3 months after we married, you thought I was asleep. But I heard you, in the kitchen, sobbing like your heart was breaking. And I realized you weren't some legend or some assignment. You were just a woman in pain, and I wanted more than anything to take that pain away. Silence stretched between them. Elias quietly gathered his maps, made himself scarce. Maeve turned to the window arms, wrapped around herself. You should have told me. About Jonah. About Hayes. About all of it. I know. And I'm sorry. But Maeve, if I had told you, would you have let me stay? Would you have let me close it all? She did not answer. could not answer, because he was right. Cole moved behind her, close but not touching. 6 years I've loved you. 6 years I knew there was something you were hiding, something eating you alive from the inside. But I stayed. Because whoever you were before, whoever you are now, I chose you. Why? The word came out broken. Why choose someone so damaged, so broken? Because you're not broken. You're just carrying too much alone. He paused. Let me help carry it, please. Maeve closed her eyes, felt tears threatening, pushed them back. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. I don't know how to let someone in, how to trust, how to be anything except alone. Then we'll figure it out, together, after we stop Hayes. She turned to face him, saw the determination in his eyes, the love, the stubborn loyalty that had sustained 6 years of marriage to a woman who gave him nothing in return. You could die. So could you. At least this way, we die together. Despite everything, the smallest smile touched her lips. That's not romantic, Cole. It's honest. She studied his face. This man who was a stranger and a husband, a lie and a truth, the brother of the man she had killed through her choices. If you come, she said slowly, you follow my lead, every order. No arguments. This isn't a ranch, this is war. I understand. And after, she continued, if we survive, we talk, really talk about everything. No more secrets, no more lies. Deal. Maeve nodded once, then turned back to the map Elias had left. Then we have work to do. That afternoon they prepared. Elias's men cleaned weapons, checked ammunition, planned positions. Maeve moved among them, giving orders with the quiet authority of someone who had done this before, many times. Cole watched her, seeing for the first time the woman she used to be, the operative, the hunter, Iron Maeve. She moved differently now, purposeful, precise, every gesture economic, every glance tactical. The gentle rancher's wife had been shed like a costume. What remained was something harder, sharper, and Cole found himself both awed and terrified. In the late afternoon, as the sun began its descent, Cole found Maeve in the barn. She was loading a rifle, hands moving with practiced efficiency. He noticed she favored her left side slightly. You're hurt. It's nothing. Bruised rib from the fight this morning. Let me see. Cole. Let me see Maeve. She sighed, set down the rifle, lifted her shirt enough to reveal the massive purple bruise spreading across her ribs. Cole sucked in a breath. That's not nothing. That could be cracked. Probably is. Still works well enough. He reached out, fingers hovering over the injury, not touching. Does it hurt? Everything hurts. I stopped noticing years ago. The admission hung between them. Cole lowered his hand. I wish I had known, he said quietly. All those years? All that pain you were carrying? I wish you had let me help. Maeve pulled down her shirt, turned back to the rifle. You couldn't have helped. This is my burden to carry. It's Jonah's burden, not yours. It's the same thing. Cole moved closer. No, it's not. Jonah chose to be a marshal, chose to investigate the syndicate, chose to come after you. Those were his choices, not yours. I went too deep. I forgot who I was. If I had just maintained better control, stayed more alert, he wouldn't have needed to pull me out. Or maybe, Cole said gently, the operation was impossible from the start. Maybe Hayes set you up to fail, set Jonah up to die. Maybe none of this was ever in your control. Maeve's hand stilled on the rifle. She had never considered that, never allowed herself to, because accepting that meant accepting she was not responsible. And if she was not responsible, then Jonah's death was truly meaningless, and that was unbearable. I need to finish this, she said, voice tight. Cole nodded, stepped back, but before he left, he said one more thing. Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever we find at that depot, I want you to know something. He waited until she looked at him. I'm proud to stand beside you, the real you, not the version you thought I wanted, the woman who survived impossible things and kept fighting anyway. Then he was gone, leaving Maeve alone with her rifle and her ghosts. As evening fell, they gathered around the fireplace in the house. Elias, his 3 men, Cole, and Maeve. 7 people preparing to face 20 or more. The plan is simple, Maeve said, using a stick to draw in the ash on the hearth. We reach Copper Ridge Pass before dawn. Establish positions here, here, and here. High ground, overlapping fields of fire. "What if Hayes doesn't come through the pass?" one of Elias's men asked. "He will. It's the only route that can handle the wagons he needs for the gold and weapons. Going around adds a full day, and based on the intelligence we extracted from Vance's men, Hayes is on a tight timeline. He'll risk the pass. And when he arrives, we give him one chance to surrender. If he refuses, we engage. Goal is to pin them down until federal reinforcements arrive." "Which might not be for 24 hours, Elias pointed out. "Can we hold that long?" Maeve met his eyes. "We have to." They reviewed the plan again, checked equipment, made sure everyone understood their role. As the meeting broke up, Maeve stood intending to go check the horses one more time. "Maeve," Cole's voice stopped her. "Can we talk just for a minute?" She almost said no, but something in his face made her pause. "All right." They walked out to the porch. The same porch where just days ago they had sat in silence, where Cole had asked where she went when her mind was elsewhere. Now they stood together looking out at the darkening prairie. "Tell me about Jonah," Cole said quietly. "Please, I was just a kid when he left for the war. By the time I was old enough to really know him, he was already a marshal, already gone most of the time." Maeve leaned against the railing. It took her a long moment to find the words. "He was better than me," she said finally, "at everything that mattered. I was faster with a gun, better at going under cover. But Jonah," she paused, "he never forgot why we did it. He could spend months hunting the worst kind of men and still believe in redemption, still see the good." "He sounds like he was a good man. The best I ever knew." Her voice cracked slightly. "He used to say that anyone could pull a trigger. The real skill was knowing when not to." Cole moved closer. "Teach me." Whatever he taught you about shooting, about surviving, teach me, so tomorrow I'm not just a liability." Maeve turned to look at him, saw the earnestness in his face, the desire to help, to be useful, to prove he was worth keeping around. "All right." They walked to the back of the house where Elias's men had set up a makeshift range. Maeve handed Cole a rifle, showed him how to hold it properly. "Jonah always said shooting isn't about power. It's about certainty." She adjusted his stance. "You have to be certain of three things: your target, your justification, and your willingness to live with the consequences. What if you're not certain? Then you don't pull the trigger. Ever." Cole raised the rifle, sighted down the barrel at a target Elias had set up, an old wooden post 50 yards out. "Breathe," Maeve instructed. "Slow and steady. Let the crosshairs settle. And when you're ready, when you're absolutely certain, squeeze. Don't pull. Squeeze." He fired. The shot went wide. Again. They practiced until full dark. Cole's shooting improved marginally. He would never be a marksman. But Maeve made sure he understood the basics. How to reload quickly. How to clear a jam. How to make every shot count when ammunition was limited. As they walked back to the house, Cole stopped her. "What if I hesitate?" he asked. "Tomorrow, when it matters. What if I can't do it?" Maeve looked at him. This gentle man who had never killed anyone, who had spent 6 years raising horses and growing wheat, who was about to walk into a battle that would change him forever. "Then you hesitate," she said, "and you live with it, like I do. Is that what happened with Jonah? You hesitated." She closed her eyes, nodded once. "Want to tell me about it?" And there, under the stars on the Dakota prairie, Maeve Ashford finally told someone the whole truth. She told him about going undercover as May Garrett, gunrunner, syndicate associate, how good she was at the role, how easily the lies came, how she started to believe her own cover story. She told him about the night a shipment came through, 50 rifles, military grade, stolen from a federal armory, and how the buyer was a militia group planning a raid on a settlement of freed slaves in East Texas. "I knew," she whispered. "I knew what they were going to do with those weapons. And I could have stopped it, could have blown my cover right then, called in the marshals, but I didn't. Why not? Because I was close. So close to identifying the top of the network. One more week, maybe 2, and I would have had everything. Names, routes, the whole operation." She opened her eyes, stared up at the stars. "So I let the deal go through, told myself it was necessary, that the greater good required sacrifice. And 12 people died in that raid. Women, children, Burned alive in their homes because I chose the mission over their lives." Cole said nothing, just listened. "Jonah found out," Maeve continued. "I don't know how, but he came for me 3 weeks later, showed up at the warehouse where I was living as May Garrett. He was furious, said I had crossed a line, said I had become what I was hunting." Her voice broke. "He was right." "What happened then?" "He tried to pull me out. Said the operation was over, that I was too deep, that I needed to come back. But I refused, told him I was fine, that I had everything under control." She laughed bitterly. "I was so arrogant, so sure I could handle it." "Maeve?" "The syndicate had people watching. They saw Jonah with me, started asking questions. I tried to cover, said he was a potential buyer, but they didn't believe it. They sent men to follow him." The next part was hardest. Maeve had to force the words out. "Jonah sent me a message, said he had evidence, said he knew who was running the syndicate from inside the Marshal Service, said we needed to meet, urgently." She paused. "I was in the middle of a meeting with a major weapons buyer, the biggest break of the whole operation, and Jonah's message came." "What did you do?" "I hesitated, told myself I could meet him after, that this buyer was too important to lose, that Jonah could wait a few hours." Tears were streaming down her face now. "By the time I got to the meeting place, it was too late. They had already found him, already set the trap." Cole pulled her close. She did not resist. "I got there and he was bleeding out," she sobbed. "And the last thing he said, the very last words were, 'You were never supposed to get this deep. Come back to who you are.'" She gripped Cole's shirt. "But I didn't know who I was anymore. I still don't." They stood there holding each other while Maeve cried for the first time in 6 years. Really cried. Not silent tears in the darkness, but full broken sobs. When she finally stopped, Cole pulled back enough to see her face. "He didn't die because of you, Maeve. He died because of Hayes. Because the system was corrupted. Because good people were put in impossible situations and told to make impossible choices. I should have chosen him over the mission. Maybe. Or maybe if you had Hayes would have had you both killed. Maybe your hesitation is the only reason you survived at all." He cupped her face gently. "You can't know. None of us can. We just have to live with the choices we make and try to do better." Maeve leaned into his touch. This man who knew the worst of her now, who had heard her confession, and who still stood here, still holding her, still refusing to walk away. "I'm afraid," she whispered. "Of what? That tomorrow I'll hesitate again. That someone else will die because I can't make the hard choice fast enough." "Then I'll be there," Cole said. "And if you hesitate, I'll help you choose. We'll carry it together." She kissed him then, not the careful, distant kisses of their marriage, but something desperate and real. Grief and need and the terror of facing an uncertain tomorrow. When they broke apart, Cole rested his forehead against hers. "Whatever happens at that depot," he said, "we face it together. Understand? Together," she agreed. They went inside. The house was quiet. Elias's men had bedded down in the barn. Elias himself dozed in a chair by the fire. Maeve and Cole climbed the stairs to their bedroom, the same room they had shared for 6 years. But tonight it felt different. No more walls between them, no more secrets. They lay down together, fully clothed, boots on, ready to move if needed. Cole wrapped his arms around her. Maeve let herself be held. "Tell me something," she said into the darkness. "Something true, from before all of this." Cole was quiet for a moment. Then, "Jonah used to write me letters, even after our parents died. Even when he was deep under cover, he'd find ways to get messages out, and in every single one he talked about you." "What did he say?" "That you were the strongest person he knew. That you had a gift for getting inside people's heads, understanding what made them tick, but that he worried about you." Cole's hand found hers. "He said you felt too much, cared too much, and that one day that caring would break you, or save you. He was never sure which." Maeve closed her eyes. "I think it did both." They lay there in silence, not sleeping, just being. Two people on the edge of violence stealing a moment of peace. As dawn approached, Maeve felt Cole's breathing even out. He had finally fallen asleep. She should sleep too, would need her strength for what was coming. But she could not stop thinking about Jonah, about Hayes, about the choice she would have to make when they faced each other at the depot. Because killing Hayes would be easy. She wanted to. God, how she wanted to. For Jonah, for herself, for every person he had betrayed. But Jonah had always believed in the law, in justice over revenge, in doing things the right way, even when the right way was harder. And Maeve did not know if she was strong enough to honor that belief, or if the iron in her soul had rusted away, leaving only rage. She slipped from the bed, careful not to wake Cole, moved to the window, watched the sky lighten over the prairie. Somewhere out there, Roar Hayes was preparing for his escape, loading wagons, bribing his way to freedom, destroying the last evidence of his crimes. And tomorrow Maeve would stop him, one way or another. She just prayed she would still recognize herself when it was over. As the first rays of sun touched the horizon, a rider appeared on the road, fast, urgent. Maeve was downstairs and armed before the horse even reached the yard. The rider nearly fell from his saddle, young, terrified. One of the scouts Elias had sent to watch the depot. "They're moving," he gasped. "Now, not tonight, now. Hayes is leaving early." Elias appeared, pulling on his coat. "How early?" "He'll reach Copper Ridge Pass in 3 hours, maybe less." Maeve's jaw tightened. "Then we move. Now, everyone up. We have 20 minutes. The house exploded into controlled chaos. Men grabbing weapons, checking gear, mounting horses. Cole stumbled downstairs, still groggy. "What's happening?" "We're out of time," Maeve said, tossing him a rifle. "Hayes is moving early. We need to reach the pass before he does, or this is over." Understanding cleared the sleep from his eyes. "How long do we have?" "Not long enough." They rode out as the sun cleared the horizon. 7 riders racing across the Dakota prairie trying to reach a narrow mountain pass before 20 armed men and whatever hell they were bringing with them. Maeve pushed her horse hard, too hard. But there was no choice. Every minute counted. Beside her, Cole kept pace. No complaint, no fear showing on his face, just grim determination. 3 miles from the pass, Elias rode up alongside her. "Maeve, we need to talk. Not now." "Yes, now." His voice was strained. "There's something I didn't tell you." Ice formed in her stomach. "What? Hayes sent me a message last night, while you and Cole were talking. And he has my daughter." Maeve pulled her horse to a sudden stop. The others continued for a moment before realizing she had halted. "What did you say?" Elias would not meet her eyes. "My daughter, Emma. She's 14. Lives with her mother in St. Louis. Hayes has her. Sent me a photograph to prove it. Said if I don't bring you to him at the depot alive, he'll kill her." The betrayal hit like a physical blow. "Elias, I'm sorry, Maeve. God, I'm so sorry. But she's my daughter. What else could I do?" Cole's rifle came up pointed at Elias. The other men tensed. "So this whole thing," Maeve said slowly, "the attack at my ranch, the planning, all of it, you were leading me into a trap." "No." "Yes, I don't know." Elias's voice cracked. "I thought I could find another way. Thought maybe we could take Hayes by surprise, save Emma, without giving you up. But if we go to that depot, if we face him, he's going to ask me to choose. And Maeve, I can't lose my daughter. I can't." Maeve stared at him. This man who had been her partner, who she had trusted with her life more times than she could count. "There's always a choice, Elias. You taught me that." "This is different." "No, it's not. It's the exact same choice I faced with Jonah, mission or family. And we both know what I chose." She nudged her horse forward. "Now you get to make the same choice." "What are you going to do?" She looked back at him. "What I should have done 6 years ago, the right thing, no matter the cost." Then she spurred her horse and rode on, leaving Elias behind with his guilt and his fear and his impossible choice. They reached Copper Ridge Pass with minutes to spare. The pass was exactly as Maeve remembered from studying maps. A narrow cut through rocky hills, barely wide enough for 2 wagons to pass. Steep walls on either side. Perfect ambush terrain. They took positions quickly. Maeve and Cole on the north rim. Elias's men spread across the south, overlapping fields of fire covering every inch of the road below. Elias took position near Maeve. She could feel his eyes on her, but did not acknowledge him. "What's the play?" Cole asked, checking his rifle. "We stop them here. Force Hayes to surrender. If he refuses, we engage until federal forces arrive." And if Elias tries to give you up, Maeve glanced at her former partner. Then we find out if he's as fast as he used to be. The sun climbed higher, heat built. Sweat trickled down Maeve's spine. Then dust appeared on the horizon. "Contact," one of Elias's men called quietly. Through her field glasses, Maeve counted wagons, 6 heavy cargo haulers, guards riding alongside. 23 men total. And at the front, on a beautiful gray horse, sat Roar Hayes. Even from a distance, she recognized him, the straight-backed bearing, the silver hair, the man who had shaped her entire career, the man who had killed her brother. "Wait for my signal," she called to the others. "Nobody fires until I give the word." The convoy entered the pass, horses nervous, men scanning the ridges. They knew this was dangerous ground. Hayes raised a hand. The convoy stopped. "Marshal Ashford," his voice echoed off the rocks, calm, almost pleased. "I know you're up there, I know you're watching, so let's skip the theatrics and talk like civilized people." Maeve stood rifle in hand but pointed down, showed herself. Hayes smiled when he saw her. "There she is, Iron Maeve. I've missed you." "Did you miss Jonah too, when you sent him into that warehouse to die?" The smile never wavered. Jonah was a good man, a good marshal, but he couldn't see the bigger picture, couldn't understand that sometimes the law gets in the way of justice. "You murdered him." "I made a difficult choice, the same kind you've made 100 times. Don't pretend you're any different than me, Maeve. We're the same, both willing to sacrifice for the mission." "No," Maeve said. "We're nothing alike. Aren't we? You let 12 people die for an investigation. I let one man die for an empire. Difference is only scale." The words hit home. Maeve felt Cole shift beside her. "Surrender," she called. "It's over, Roar. Federal authorities are on their way. You can't escape." "Actually, I can, because I have something you want." Hayes gestured. 2 of his men dragged someone from one of the wagons. A girl, 14 years old, terrified. Elias made a strangled sound. "Emma." "Here's my offer," Hayes called. "You let us pass. We go our separate ways. The girl lives. Everyone lives. Or you force this into a fight and she's the first casualty." Maeve's finger tightened on the trigger. One shot. She could end this, drop Hayes where he stood. But the girl, innocent, terrified, about to die because adults had made terrible choices, just like those 12 people in Texas. "Don't," Cole whispered. "Don't carry another one, Maeve, please." She looked at him, saw the pleading in his eyes, then at Elias, tears streaming down his face, then back at Hayes' confident smile on his face, knowing he had won. Maeve lowered her rifle. "Let them pass." "Maeve, no," Elias said. "I said let them pass." Hayes' smile widened. Wise choice. He nodded to his men. And that's when Maeve saw the rifle barrel shift, saw the man aiming not at her, but at Cole. Time slowed. She was moving before conscious thought, shoving Cole aside. The rifle cracked. Fire exploded in Maeve's shoulder. She spun, went down hard. "Ambush!" Hayes roared. "Take them all!" The pass erupted in gunfire. Cole was above her, dragging her to cover. Blood everywhere, her blood. "Maeve, stay with me." "The girl!" she gasped. "Save the girl!" Then darkness took her. She woke to pain. Darkness, motion, someone carrying her. "Cole, I'm here. I've got you." "The girl, Emma. Did you—" "Elias has her. She's safe." "And Hayes?" "Gone. They broke through. But we hurt them. Dropped at least 6. They won't get far." Maeve tried to sit up. Agony lanced through her shoulder. She looked down, makeshift bandage, blood seeping through. They were in a cave. Small. Hidden. Outside she could hear horses. "How long was I out?" 20 minutes. We had to move. Hayes sent men back to finish us." "The others?" Cole's face darkened. 2 of Elias's men are dead. The rest scattered. It's just us. And Elias with Emma. As if summoned, Elias appeared at the cave entrance. The girl clutched his hand. "Maeve?" Relief flooded his face. "Thank God, I thought—" "You thought your betrayal would kill me. It almost did." He flinched. "I never wanted this. But you caused it anyway." She tried to sit up. Cole helped her. "Your daughter's safe." "Yes, thanks to you. If you hadn't lowered your rifle, Hayes would have killed her just to make a point." But now he's gone. Free. With everything he wanted. Elias knelt beside her. "Not everything. When his men grabbed Emma from the wagon, I saw inside, saw what he was really transporting. And evidence, not weapons, not gold, evidence. 6 years of documents proving corruption from the local level all the way to Washington. Names, dates, proof. He was going to use it as leverage. Insurance to protect himself in Canada. Understanding dawned. If we can get those documents, we can bring down the whole network. Everyone Hayes has corrupted, everyone he's blackmailed. The entire syndicate crumbles. Maeve looked at Cole, at Elias, at the terrified girl who should never have been part of this. Then we finish it, she said. We get those documents, and we end this, tonight. You're shot, Cole protested. You need a doctor. I need justice more. She held out her hand. Help me up. Cole pulled her to her feet. Pain made her vision gray, but she pushed through it. Where's Hayes going? She asked Elias. The railroad depot, 20 miles north. He'll regroup there. Wait for nightfall. Then take the last train to the border. Maeve nodded. Then we have until dark, which means we move now. As they prepared to leave the cave, Emma spoke for the first time. Ma'am, thank you for trying to save me. Maeve looked at this girl, same age Maeve had been when she first fired a gun, when she first learned that the world was not safe, not fair, not kind. You're welcome. Now stay close to your father. This isn't over yet. They rode through the afternoon, Maeve swaying in the saddle, fever building from the wound, but she would not stop, could not stop. Because ahead, at an abandoned depot, waited the man who had destroyed everything. And this time, when Maeve faced Roar Hayes, she would not hesitate. The abandoned railroad depot rose from the prairie like a monument to forgotten industry. 3 stories of weathered wood and broken windows, platform long since rotted through, tracks rusted and reclaimed by weeds. But in the fading afternoon light, it was alive with movement. Hayes's men establishing defensive positions, wagons being unloaded, horses corralled in what remained of the stockyard. From a ridge a half-mile distant, Maeve watched through field glasses. Each breath sent fire through her wounded shoulder. Fever made the world shimmer at the edges, but her mind remained sharp, focused. 20 men, she said quietly, maybe 22. Hard to get an exact count with them moving around. Cole crouched beside her, his own rifle ready. And we're 4, with 1 wounded, 1 14-year-old girl, and 1 man who already betrayed us once. I know the math. So what's the play? Maeve lowered the glasses, looked at him with eyes that burned from more than fever. I go in alone. You 3 wait here. When I signal, you create a distraction. Draw them away from the main building. I get to Hayes and the documents. That's not a plan. That's suicide. It's the only option we have. No. Cole's hand found hers. We do this together or not at all. Behind them, Elias approached with Emma. The girl was wrapped in his coat despite the heat, shock setting in from her ordeal. She needs medical attention, Elias said. Real attention, not field bandages and hope. So do you, he added, looking at Maeve's blood-soaked shoulder. After we finish this. Maeve, please, be reasonable. You've been shot, you have a fever, you can barely stay upright. What you're proposing is impossible. She turned to face him fully. 6 years ago, I made choices that got my brother killed, got innocent people killed. I've carried that weight every single day since, and I'm done carrying it. So you're going to get yourself killed instead? How does that help anyone? Because if I don't stop Hayes now tonight, he disappears. The syndicate continues. More people die, more lives ruined, and Jonah's sacrifice means nothing. The sun was nearly gone now, long shadows stretching across the prairie. In the depot, lanterns began to glow, guards taking up night positions. Maeve checked her revolver, custom Colt, the one she had not fired in 6 years. It felt foreign and familiar all at once, like greeting an old friend you were not sure you wanted to see again. There's something I need to tell you, Cole said quietly. Before we do this, in case things go wrong. Cole, don't. Listen, please. He took a breath. When Jonah was dying, when I finally got to him at the field hospital, he made me promise something, not just to watch over you, but to tell you something if I ever got the chance. Maeve's hand stilled on the revolver. He said to tell you that he forgave you, that he never blamed you for what happened, that he was proud of you, and that he loved you more than anything in this world. The words hit harder than any bullet. Maeve felt her carefully constructed walls beginning to crack. He also said, Cole continued, voice rough with emotion, that you needed to forgive yourself, that carrying guilt like armor would only make you brittle, that real strength came from accepting your humanity, your capacity to fail, and choosing to try again anyway. A tear slid down Maeve's cheek. She did not wipe it away. I should have been there, she whispered. I should have chosen him over the mission. Maybe, or maybe you both did exactly what you had to do. Him trying to save you. You trying to save others. Maybe there was never a right choice. Just hard ones. Remember what Jonah wrote, Cole said quietly. In that letter, Maeve nodded, touching her pocket where she kept it folded close to her heart. Come back to who you are. You have, you did, and I'm so damn proud of you. Maeve pulled away, wiped her eyes, looked at Cole with new understanding. You, this whole time, the ranch, the marriage, Jonah set it up. He asked me to watch over you. I chose to love you, there's a difference, and you never told me. Would you have let me stay if you'd known? Would you have trusted anything between us? She thought about that. About 6 years of careful distance. 6 years of walls built so high no one could climb them. No, she admitted, I wouldn't have. Cole cupped her face gently. Then maybe some secrets are meant to be kept. Until the right moment. Until the person is ready to hear them. She kissed him then. Deep and desperate and real. Tasting salt from tears and copper from blood and something else. Something that felt like coming home. When they broke apart, she pressed her forehead to his. If we survive this, she said, we start over. No more secrets, no more lies, just us, figuring it out together. Deal. Elias cleared his throat. I hate to interrupt, but we're losing darkness. If we're going to move, it needs to be soon. Maeve straightened. Pain flared, but she pushed through it. Here's the new plan. Elias, you take Emma back toward town. Find the federal authorities. Tell them everything. Maeve, I can fight. You can. But your daughter needs you more than I do, and someone has to make sure the truth gets out if this goes wrong. Elias looked like he wanted to argue, but Emma's hand in his stopped him. All right, he said quietly. But Maeve, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. For all of it. I know, now go, fast as you can. Father and daughter melted into the darkness, their hoofbeats fading. Maeve turned to Cole. And you're not going to like this part. Then I already don't like it. You're staying here, covering my approach. If things go wrong, you ride for help. Absolutely not. Cole, no, we agreed. Together. That means I go where you go. She wanted to argue, to protect him, to keep him safe from what was coming, but she saw the determination in his face. The same stubborn loyalty that had sustained 6 years of loving someone who gave nothing back. Fine. But you follow my lead, every step. Understand? Yes, ma'am. They moved through the darkness like ghosts. Maeve's training coming back. How to step without sound, how to use shadows, how to become invisible. Cole followed her lead. Clumsy at first, but learning. They reached the depot's outer perimeter, guards posted but not alert, confident in their numbers, their firepower. Big mistake. Maeve signaled Cole. He nodded. They separated. Moving to opposite sides of the main building, she counted to 30, then threw a rock at the far wall. The guards turned, investigating, and Maeve slipped inside. The interior was chaos. Men sleeping in corners, others gambling, the air thick with tobacco smoke and unwashed bodies. But in the center, in what had been the station master's office, lamplight glowed. Maeve moved along the wall, silent, invisible. Years of training making her more shadow than substance. She reached the office door, pressed her ear to it. Voices inside, 2 of them. One was Hayes, the other unfamiliar. The shipment leaves at midnight, Hayes was saying. Everything loaded and ready. By dawn we'll be across the border. And the girl's father, the one who was supposed to deliver Ashford. A loose end, he'll be dealt with. And Ashford herself, Hayes laughed, cold. Probably bleeding out somewhere on the prairie. Even if she survived the pass, she's wounded, outnumbered, and broken. Iron Maeve is dead. What's left is just a ghost pretending to be dangerous. Maeve's hand tightened on her revolver. Still, the other voice said, perhaps we should post extra guards, just in case. If it makes you feel better, but trust me, I know that woman. I made her, And I broke her. She's not coming. Maeve kicked open the door. Hayes spun hand going for his gun, but froze when he saw her. Because standing in the doorway covered in blood and prairie dust, eyes burning with fever and fury, was everything he had said was impossible. "Hello, Roar," Maeve said quietly. "Miss me?" The other man in the room went for his weapon. Maeve shot him. Center mass. He went down hard. Hayes slowly raised his hands, that calculating mind working, assessing, planning. "Impressive," he said. "You're more resilient than I gave you credit for. Where are the documents?" "What documents?" "The evidence. 6 years of proof, the insurance you've been keeping. Where is it?" Hayes smiled. "Even if such documents existed, what makes you think I'd tell you?" Maeve cocked the revolver, aimed at his knee. "Because I'm tired of games. And right now I'm not feeling particularly interested in due process. You won't shoot me. That's not who you are. Jonah taught you better than that. Jonah's dead because of you. Jonah died because he couldn't see the bigger picture, couldn't understand that sometimes you have to break laws to achieve justice. You murdered him. I made a tactical decision, same as you've made 100 times. Don't pretend you're any different, Maeve. You and I were the same, both willing to sacrifice for what we believe in. We're nothing alike." "No." Hayes took a step closer. Maeve's gun tracked him. "Tell me about those 12 people in Texas. The ones who died because you let a weapons deal go through. Tell me how that's different from what I did to Jonah." The words hit like fists. Maeve's hand wavered. "That's right," Hayes continued. "I know all about it. Know about every compromise you made, every line you crossed, every time you chose the mission over your conscience. You think you're here for justice? You're here because you can't live with what you've become, and killing me won't change that. Maybe not, but it'll stop you from hurting anyone else. Will it, because I'm not the disease, Maeve? I'm just a symptom. The corruption, the violence, the willingness to sacrifice innocence for the greater good. That's built into the system, into the law you claim to serve. Killing me just makes room for the next person." Outside shouts, running footsteps. Hayes's men realizing something was wrong. "Sounds like you're out of time," Hayes said. "So what's it going to be? Shoot me in cold blood and prove you're exactly what I made you, or let me go and live with knowing you had the chance and couldn't take it?" Maeve's finger tightened on the trigger, every fiber of her being screaming to end this, to put a bullet in the man who had destroyed her brother, her life, everything. But then Jonah's letter flashed through her mind. His words, "Come back to who you are." She lowered the gun, slightly. "Cole," she called. The door burst open. Cole entered, rifle ready. "Get the documents," Maeve ordered. "Everything Hayes has been keeping. It'll be close. He wouldn't trust anyone else with it." Cole moved to a large trunk in the corner, forced it open. Inside, stacks of paper, ledgers, photographs, evidence of corruption stretching back years. Hayes watched, expression unreadable. The door behind them exploded inward. Hayes's men flooding in, weapons raised. "Stand down," Hayes ordered calmly. "Let them take it. Let them think they've won." Confusion rippled through the men, but they obeyed, lowering weapons, stepping back. "Why?" Maeve asked. "Why let us walk out?" Hayes smiled. "Because I want you to live with it. Want you to take that evidence and watch what happens. The trials, the revelations. Good men's careers destroyed, families ruined, the entire justice system called into question." He leaned forward. "You think you're bringing down corruption. You're bringing down everything. And when the dust settles, when you see what your righteousness has cost, I want you to remember this moment. Remember that you could have walked away, could have let it all stay buried." "You're insane." "No, I'm realistic. You're the one who still believes in fairy tales, that good triumphs, that justice matters, that sacrifices mean something." His voice dropped. "I'll see you in the trials, Marshal Ashford. I'll see you when you have to testify about your own crimes, about those 12 dead in Texas, about every law you broke chasing me, and we'll see who the real monster is." Maeve wanted to respond, to argue, but Cole was tugging her arm. "We need to go, now." They backed toward the door, Hayes's men parting to let them through. It felt wrong, too easy. Outside, horses waited, the ones Cole had prepared. They mounted. Cole carrying the trunk of documents. And as they rode into the darkness, Maeve heard Hayes laughing, the sound following them across the prairie like a curse. They rode for 2 hours before stopping, found a hollow where they could rest, build a small fire. Cole laid out the documents, started going through them methodically. Maeve sat apart, staring at the flames, shoulder throbbing, fever making her thoughts slow and thick. Maeve, Cole's voice was strange, tight. She looked over. He was holding a photograph, his hands shaking. "What is it?" "This." He handed it to her. The photograph showed 3 men, young, in martial uniforms, Jonah on the left, Hayes in the center, and on the right impossibly Cole. No, not Cole. She looked closer. The resemblance was there, but the features were different, softer. This man was younger, less weathered. "That's me," Cole said quietly. 15 years ago, before I died in the war, before I became Cole Caldwell." Maeve's world tilted. "You were a marshal." "I was, briefly. Jonah got me the appointment. I was 20, idealistic, stupid." His laugh was bitter. "Hayes was our training officer. He saw potential in me, potential to be molded, corrupted." "What happened?" "I saw things, heard things, started asking questions, and Hayes decided I knew too much. He arranged an accident, a raid that went wrong. Official records say I died, but really I was just buried. New name, new identity, sent to watch over you." "But you said Jonah asked you to watch me, said it was his dying wish." "It was, but Hayes arranged the meeting, made it seem like coincidence, let Jonah think he was protecting you when really Hayes was making sure you stayed controlled, contained." The full scope of the manipulation was staggering. Hayes had orchestrated everything, for years, decades. "So our marriage," Maeve said slowly, "was it ever real?" Cole crossed to her, knelt, took her hands. "When I first came to Liberty Crossing, it was an assignment. Hayes's orders, watch you, report back. Make sure you stayed quiet." He met her eyes. "But the first time I saw you, really saw you, not the legend but the person, the way you carried all that pain and still got up every morning, still tried. I knew I was in trouble." "How long before it became real?" 3 months, maybe 4. I was sitting in church watching you pretend to pray, and I realized I wasn't pretending anymore. I had actually fallen in love with you. Did you tell Hayes?" "No, I kept reporting, kept the charade going, but I stopped telling him everything, started protecting you instead of surveilling you." He squeezed her hands. "The man who married you, who built that ranch with you, who loved you for 6 years, that was real. That is real." Maeve wanted to believe him. God, how she wanted to. But 6 years of lies stood between them, mountains of deception. "I don't know if I can do this," she whispered. "I don't know if I can trust you, trust anyone." "I know, and I don't blame you. But Maeve, if we're going to survive what's coming, if we're going to see this through, we have to trust each other. Even if it's hard, even if it's terrifying." She looked into his eyes, searching for the lie, the manipulation. But all she saw was love, imperfect and complicated and built on a foundation of deception, but real nonetheless. "Okay," she said finally, "but no more secrets, ever, even the small ones. Deal." They sat together by the fire as dawn approached, going through documents, building the case that would bring down not just Hayes, but an entire network of corruption. As the sun rose, riders appeared on the horizon. Maeve tensed, reached for her gun, but Cole touched her arm. "Look at the colors. Federal marshal flags, official. Elias had gotten through. Help was coming." The lead rider dismounted. Older man, weather-beaten face, marshal's badge bright on his chest. "Marshal Ashford?" he asked. Maeve stood, swaying slightly. "Yes." "Marshal Thomas Wickham, Federal Investigative Division. We received word from Elias Merrick about the situation, about Roar Hayes and the syndicate. It's all here." She gestured to the documents. "Everything you need. Names, dates, proof." Wickham looked at the papers. His face went pale. "My God, this goes all the way to Washington." "Yes. This is going to destroy careers, ruin lives. The fallout will be catastrophic." "I know, but it's necessary." Wickham met her eyes. "You understand you're going to have to testify, about everything, including your own actions during the investigation." Maeve nodded. "I know, I'm ready." "Are you?" Because once this starts, there's no going back. Your life, your reputation, everything will be examined. People will call you a hero, others will call you a criminal, and some won't know what to call you. I stopped caring what people call me a long time ago. I only care about one thing now. What's that? Justice. Real justice. Not the compromised version, not the version that protects the powerful and sacrifices the innocent. The kind Jonah believed in. The kind worth fighting for. Wickham nodded slowly. Then let's finish this. Properly. Over the next hours, more marshals arrived, federal authorities, even a representative from the Attorney General's office. The depot was raided. Hayes and his men arrested. The documents seized as evidence. Through it all, Maeve sat apart, watching, a strange numbness settling over her. She had done it, brought down the syndicate, exposed the corruption, achieved everything she had been working toward for 6 years. So why did she feel so empty? Cole found her as the sun reached its peak, sat beside her on a fallen log. How are you holding up? I don't know, I should feel something. Victory, relief, but I just feel tired. That's normal. After that much adrenaline, that much fear, the body just wants to shut down. It's not just physical. It's like I've been carrying this weight for so long I don't know who I am without it. Don't know what to do with my life now that the mission is over. Cole was quiet for a moment. Then, maybe that's the point. Maybe you get to figure out who you are when you're not hunting. Not hiding, just being. I don't know how to do that. Neither do I. We'll figure it out together. She leaned against him, let herself be held. What happens now? Now we go home, to the ranch. We heal. We testify when they need us. And we try to build something real, something that's ours. Think we can? I think if you can survive everything you've been through and still be sitting here, still fighting, still trying, you can do anything. 3 weeks later, Maeve stood at Jonah's grave, the simple wooden cross she had erected 6 years ago, the plot she visited every Sunday. But today was different. Today, she was not alone. Cole stood at a distance, giving her space. Elias and Emma sat on a fallen log nearby. The girl picked wildflowers yellow and white against the green prairie grass. Maeve knelt slowly, her wounded shoulder still aching but healing. She touched the earth with both hands. The soil was warm from the afternoon sun, alive. For a long time she said nothing, just knelt there, breathing, feeling the weight of 6 years pressing down and finally beginning to lift. I used to think silence was safety, she said quietly, her voice barely carrying on the wind. That if I didn't speak, didn't feel, didn't let anyone in, the pain couldn't find me again. She traced the letters carved into the wooden cross, Jonah. But silence isn't safety, is it? It's just absence. Absence of connection, of life, of everything that makes us human. You tried to tell me that in the letter, in your last words. Come back to who you are. A meadowlark called from somewhere in the grass, its song pure and achingly beautiful. I was so afraid, Maeve continued, tears streaming down her face now, afraid that if I came back, if I let myself feel again, the guilt would destroy me. That I'd have to face what I'd done, who I'd become, the people I couldn't save. She pressed her forehead to the cross. Those 12 people in Texas. I see their faces every night. Did you know that every single night for 6 years? And I thought if I just stayed numb, stayed silent, stayed iron, eventually I'd stop seeing them, stop feeling it. The wind shifted, warm, gentle, like a hand on her shoulder. But that's not how it works. The guilt doesn't fade. It just sits there, heavy, silent, until you choose to carry it differently, until you forgive yourself the way you said to. She pulled back, looked at the cross through blurred vision. I brought down Hayes, exposed the syndicate, finished what you started. And for a moment I thought that would be enough, that justice would heal the wound, but it doesn't. Does it? Justice is just justice. It doesn't bring you back, doesn't erase my mistakes, doesn't make me whole again. Behind her she heard Emma's soft laughter as she wove flowers into a chain, the sound of innocence, of life continuing despite everything. But maybe that's okay, Maeve whispered. Maybe wholeness isn't about erasing the cracks. Maybe it's about learning to live with them, to let light through them, to let other people help carry what's too heavy to bear alone. She looked back at Cole. He hadn't moved, just stood there, patient, present, waiting for however long she needed. "You sent him to me, didn't you, Cole? Your little brother. In your letter you said to find him, that he'd help me remember who I was." She smiled through tears. "You knew. Even dying, you knew exactly what I would need, not someone to fix me. Just someone to stand beside me while I figured out how to fix myself." The sun was setting now, painting the prairie in shades of amber and gold, the same colors as that Texas sunset 6 years ago, but somehow different, softer, less like an ending and more like a beginning. "I'm going to try," Maeve said, "to live, really live. Not just survive, not just hide. I'm going to let Cole in, let people in. I'm going to make mistakes and fail and hurt and heal and try again, the way you said to." She stood slowly, brushed the dirt from her knees. "I love you, Jonah. I'll always love you, and I'll always carry what happened. But I'm not going to let it be the only thing I carry anymore." She turned. Cole was there, hand extended. She took it, his fingers warm and solid and real. "Thank you," she said to the grave one last time, "for never giving up on me, even when I gave up on myself, for teaching me that iron can bend without breaking, that strength isn't about being unbreakable. It's about breaking and choosing to heal." Emma approached shyly, holding out the chain of wildflowers she'd woven. "For your brother," the girl said softly, "if that's okay." Maeve took the flowers, knelt one more time, laid them gently on the grave, yellow and white against the dark earth. Beautiful, alive, growing despite everything. "Let's go home," she said. Cole squeezed her hand. "Home." And as they walked back toward the horses, Maeve realized something profound. For 6 years she had visited this grave every Sunday out of guilt, out of duty, out of the need to punish herself. But from now on she would come out of love, out of gratitude, out of the simple human need to remember someone who had changed her life. The silence that had once been her prison was now just silence. Empty space waiting to be filled with connection, with laughter, with the messy, complicated, beautiful act of living. And for the first time in 6 years, that didn't terrify her. It felt like coming home. 6 months later, the trials began. Maeve testified. Every detail, every choice, every compromise. The prosecution painted her as a hero, the defense as a criminal. The jury looked confused. In the end, immunity was granted in exchange for testimony. Justice served in the only way the broken system could manage. Hayes was sentenced to life imprisonment, dozens of others with him. The syndicate dismantled, the corruption exposed, but the cost was high, careers destroyed, families ruined. The entire justice system called into question, just as Hayes had predicted. Maeve and Cole returned to the ranch, to the quiet life they had built. But it was different now. No more secrets, no more walls. They talked, really talked, about Jonah, about the past, about what they wanted from the future. Slowly, carefully, they built something real. Not perfect, but honest. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Cole asked a question. "Do you regret it?" All of it, the investigation, the choices, everything that led to here. Maeve thought about that, about the weight she had carried, the price she had paid. "I regret Jonah's death. I regret the people I couldn't save. But the rest," she looked at him. "No, because it led me here, to you, to this. Even knowing what it cost, especially knowing what it cost. Because I understand now what Jonah was trying to tell me. It's not about erasing the past. It's about learning to carry its weight. And I'm not carrying it alone anymore." Cole pulled her close. "No, you're not." They sat together as darkness fell. Two broken people learning to be whole. The weight of silence replaced by the comfort of companionship. And for the first time in 6 years, Maeve Ashford felt something she thought she had lost forever. Peace. Not the peace of forgetting, but the peace of acceptance, of knowing she had done everything she could, made the best choices she knew how, and that sometimes that was enough. The prairie wind blew across the land, carrying with it the scent of grass and rain and possibility. And in the distance, if you listened carefully, you could almost hear the sound of Jonah Ashford, smiling, proud, telling his sister to come back to who she was. She had. Finally. And she was home. The end.